Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, and it is chapter 24, beginning the chapter, and it is a summary entitled The Subterranean Heavenly Planets. Getting a tour of the universe here as Sukadeva Goswami reveals to Maharaj Parikshit the structure of the universe, different planets, and the different areas where different living entities reside, what the planets are like, how the residents approach the Lord. And now we're going to the subterranean heavenly planets. And this Bhagavatam is translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And this is the summary, so we can get some idea of what will be discussed in the verses. This chapter describes the planet Rahu, which is 10,000 yojanas, or 80,000 miles below the sun. It also describes Atala and the other lower planetary systems. Rahu is situated below the sun and moon. It's between these two planets and the earth. When Rahu conceals the sun and moon, eclipses occur, either total or partial, depending on whether Rahu moves in a straight or curving way. Below Rahu, by another 1 million yojanas, are the planets of the Siddhas, Charanas, and Vidyadhars. And below these are planets such as Rakshaloka and Yakshaloka and Rakshaloka. Below these planets is the earth. And 70,000 yojanas below the earth are the lower planetary systems: Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Demons and Rakshasas live in these lower planetary systems with their wives and children, always engaged in sense gratification and not fearing their next birth. The sunshine does not reach these planets, but they're illuminated by jewels fixed upon the hoods of snakes. Because of these shining gems, there is practically no darkness. Those living in these planets do not become old or diseased, and they're not afraid of death from any cause but the time factor, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the planet Atala, the yawning of a demon has produced 3 kinds of women called Svarini, independent, Kamini, lusty, and Pumshali, very easily subdued by men. Below Atala is the planet Vitala, wherein Lord Shiva and his wife Gauri reside. Because of their presence, a kind of gold is produced called Hatika. Below Vitala is the planet Sutala, the abode of Bali Maharaj, the most fortunate king. Bali Maharaj was favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vamanadev because of his intense devotional service. The Lord went to the sacrificial arena of Bali Maharaj and begged him for 3 paces of land, and on this plea the Lord took from him all his possessions. When Bali Maharaj agreed to all this, the Lord was very pleased, and therefore the Lord serves as his doorkeeper. The description of Bali Maharaj appears in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead offers a devotee material happiness, that's not his real favor. Demigods who are very puffed up by their material opulence pray to the Lord only for material happiness, not knowing anything better. Devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, however, do not want material happiness. Not to speak of material happiness, they do not want even liberation from material bondage, although one can achieve this liberation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, even with improper pronunciation. Below Sutala is the planet Talatala, the abode of the demon Maya. This demon's always materially happy because he's favored by Lord Shiva, but he cannot achieve spiritual happiness at any time. Below Talatala is the planet Mahatala, where there are many snakes with hundreds and thousands of hoods. Below Mahatala is Rasatala, and below that is Patala, where the serpent Vasuki lives with his associates. Getting a tour of the universe, from the higher planets to the lower planets. And the earthly planet is situated more or less in the middle, not too high and not too low. Text 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, some historians, the speakers of the Puranas, say that 10,000 yojanas, or 80,000 miles below the sun, is the planet known as Rahu, which moves like one of the stars. The presiding deity of that planet, who is the son of Samika, is the most abominable of all asuras, but although he's completely unfit to assume the position of a demigod or planetary deity, he's achieved that position by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and later I shall speak further about him." You know, he drank the nectar of immortality when he wasn't supposed to. And he had some interaction with Mohini Murti, incarnation of Krishna. We'll hear about that in later cantos. So he's not qualified at all, but there he is. Text 2. The sun globe, which is a source of heat, extends for 10,000 yojanas, or 80,000 miles. The moon extends for 20,000 yojanas, or 160,000 miles. And Rahu extends for 30,000 yojanas, 240,000 miles. Formerly, when nectar was being distributed, Rahu tried to create dissension between the sun and moon by interposing himself between them. Rahu is inimical toward both the sun and the moon, and therefore he always tries to cover the sunshine and moonshine on the dark moon day and full moon night. Short commentary here. As stated herein, the sun extends for 10,000 yojanas. The moon extends for twice that, or 20,000 yojanas. The word Dvadadas should be understood to mean twice as much as 10, or 20. In the opinion of Vijayadvaj, the extent of Rahu should be twice that of the moon, or text of the Bhagavatam. Vijayadvaj cites the following quotation concerning Rahu, which means Rahu is twice as large as the moon, but is twice as large as the sun, which is twice as large as the sun. This is the conclusion of the commentator Vijayadvaj. So in the verse, Rahu was said to extend 30,000, but since the moon is calculated at 20,000, then Rahu should be 40,000. So there's a little bit of going back and forth about how far Rahu actually extends. Text 3. After hearing from the sun and moon demigods about Rahu's attack, Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu engaged his disk known as Sudarshan Chakra to protect them. The Sudarshan Chakra is the Lord's most beloved devotee, is favored by the Lord. The intense heat of his effulgence, meant for killing non-Vaishnavas, is unbearable to Rahu, and he therefore flees in fear of it. During the time Rahu disturbs the sun and moon, there occurs what people commonly known as an eclipse. So this is a pastime that goes on, not just once, but it's an eternal pastime. And Krishna's pastimes are eternal. With the different incarnations of Krishna, say when he personally appears as Krishna, he appears in one part of the material universe, appears on the earth planet, and displays his pastimes. And then he moves on to another universe and displays his pastimes there in another universe, because these pastimes are going on all the time. Well, it's said like the sun in the sky. It's always noontime somewhere. So Krishna is like that. Pastimes are always going on somewhere. So this pastime with Rahu, because it is directly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this pastime goes on all the time. And evidently, it's going on with Krishna is only, it's millenniums of time between his appearance. But with Rahu, it's fortnights. So these pastimes of Rahu, when he tries to disturb the sun and the moon in his different ways, and he's chased by the Sudarshan chakra of the Lord, this goes on perpetually. That's why we see several times in the course of a lifetime, we see many, many times these eclipses and these partial eclipses. This is actually a pastime, personality of Godhead, and this inimical personality, Rahu. So the scientists in the crowd sometimes have trouble with these ways of understanding what we're perceiving. But by perceiving simply through our senses, we're not getting the full picture, because we're spirit. We're spiritual beings. And the forces behind the workings of the universe, material universe, are spirit, is spirit. It's a different type of energy. So when the scientists are measuring the material energy, they're simply measuring the after effects of what spirit is causing and trying to draw some conclusions. But the driving force behind everything is spirit. So these spirits are being described here, how the spirit of Rahu, the spiritual personality, Rahu, is causing these problems, tries to cause these problems for the sun and the moon, and is chased by the Supreme Personality, a great devotee of the Supreme Personality, the Sudarshan, who emits intense heat and light, chases Rahu away. It is not mythology. It's transcendental science. It's not just cute stories. It's the workings of the universe. It's a different type of energy, spiritual energy. Text 4. Below Rahu, by 10,000 yojanas, or 80,000 miles, are the planets known as Siddhaloka, Charanaloka, and Vidyadharaloka. So they're just below Rahu. It is said that the residents of Siddhaloka, being naturally endowed with the powers of yogis, can go from one planet to another by their natural mystic powers without using airplanes or similar machines. So this is the power of accomplished yogis. This is their planet. This is where they reside. And they can go anywhere without any type of contraption, simply by their yogic mystic powers, without airplanes or machines of any kind. They can travel. These are the Siddhalokas. Text 5. Beneath Vidyadharaloka, Charanaloka, and Siddhaloka, some people are very much attracted to this And they aspire to go to Siddhaloka so they can have these powers. Here again we run into the same difficulty, that the whole material creation is temporary. Just like those that perform ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices to go to the heavenly planets to enjoy sense gratification unimaginable to those of us on the earth planet. They too are enamored of something which has a beginning and an end. So devotees of the Lord, they don't aspire for these things. They don't find them attractive at all. Perhaps you find them quite amazing, because the Lord's creation is totally awesome, overwhelmingly fantastic. But they do see these things as pretty much fantastic, like phantasmagoria type fantastic, not attracted. They're not attracted to anything material. And these mystic abilities, smaller than the smallest, being able to go to any planet, being able to reach out and take something from almost anywhere, not attracted to these things. I find it amazing, but not attracted. So Vidyadarloka, Charanaloka, and Siddhaloka, in the sky called Antariksha, are the places of enjoyment for the Rakshas, Rakshashas, Pishakas, ghosts, and so on. Antariksha extends as far as the wind blows, and the clouds float in the sky. Above this, there's no more air. Interesting. There's a sky called Antariksha. It extends as far as the wind blows, and the clouds float in the sky. Above this, there's no more air. So it's pretty close to the earth planet, this residence, in one sense. Below the abodes of Rakshas and Rakshashas by a distance of 100 yojanas, or 800 miles, is the planet Earth. Oh, though it is close, 800 miles. Its upper limit extends as high as swans, hawks, eagles, and similar large birds can fly. So we're very close to the Rakshashas, Pishakas, ghosts, and hobgoblins. They're above us, closer to the sun and the moon than we are. Very interesting. Text 7. My dear king, beneath this earth are 7 other planets known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. I've already explained the situation of the planetary systems of Earth. The width and breadth of the 7 lower planetary systems are calculated to be exactly the same as those of Earth. Exactly the same, the width and breadth. Exactly the same as the earthly planetary system. Text 8. In these 7 planetary systems, which are also known as subterranean heavens, Bilaswarga, there are very beautiful houses, gardens, places of sense enjoyment, which are even more opulent than those in the higher planets, because the demons have a very high standard of sensual pleasure, wealth, and influence. Most of the residents of these planets, who are known as Daityas, Danavas, and Nagas, live as householders. Their wives, children, friends, and society are all fully engaged in illusory material happiness. The sense enjoyment of the demigods is sometimes disturbed, but the residents of these planets enjoy life without disturbance. Thus they are understood to be very attached to illusory happiness. Wow, look at these arrangements by the personality of Godhead. Can see, not at all envious that these living entities are enjoying material sense gratification to the utmost. Not at all envious. Although the Supreme Lord knows that that is not their actual position as spirit. They're so determined that he provides a facility. And if someone wants to go there, they can. Fully engaged. It's like devotees are fully engaged in hearing and chanting about Krishna, serving Krishna, worshipping Krishna, offering prayers to Krishna, remembering Krishna. So they're fully engaged in illusory material happiness. And they're not disturbed. So they're better off than the demigods. Because the demigods, they are performing responsible duties on behalf of the Supreme Lord as managers, managerial duties. And sometimes they're disturbed in their service. It becomes a little awkward or difficult. Different things happen trying to serve the Lord as a manager of material affairs. But these guys, the lower planets, their only focus, their only purpose in life is to enjoy material sense gratification. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Fully absorbed in these activities. Wow. So this is called the subterranean heavenly planets. Heavenly delights. Make a person forget their spiritual nature. Make a person forget death. It's not that they don't die, they do. It's just that they're not disturbed at all until it's time to go. So what is the karma for these living entities when they leave this subterranean hellish condition? My goodness. Where are they going? Lifetime after lifetime. Complete ignorance. But it looks like they're not subject to birth and death, old age and disease in the same way that those of us on the earthly planet are subject to. We're very much harassed by these things, which is a great impetus for self-realization. But because they're not harassed by these things, simply death comes. There's birth and then death comes. But there's no old age or disease in between. So where's the impetus? And it says they're not afraid of death either. Wow, they're here to stay. Manifestation after manifestation, they are rooted in. It is the bottom of the pile. Well, the Lord is so kind. He makes arrangements for everyone. So let's find out a little bit more about this subterranean heavenly situation. Prabhupada's commentary: according to the statements of Prahlad Maharaj, material enjoyment is Maya Sukha, or illusory enjoyment. A Vaishnava is full of anxieties for the deliverance of all living entities from such false enjoyment. Prahlad Maharaj says, Maya Sukhaya Param Udvahato Vimudhan. These fools, Vimudis, are engaged in material happiness, which is surely temporary, whether in the heavenly planets, the lower planets, or the earthly planets. People are engrossed in temporary material happiness, forgetting that in due course they have to change their bodies according to material laws and suffer the repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. Not caring what will happen in their next birth, gross materialists are simply busy enjoying during the present short span of life. A Vaishnava is always anxious to give all such bewildered materialists the real happiness of spiritual life. Ignorance is bliss. Text 9. My dear king, in the imitation heaven known as Bilvaswarga, there's a great demon named Mayadanava, who is an expert artist and architect. He's constructed many brilliantly decorated cities. There are many wonderful houses, walls, gates, assembly houses, temples, yards, and temple compounds, as well as many hotels serving as residential quarters for foreigners. The houses for the leaders of these planets are constructed with the most valuable jewels, and they're always crowded with living entities known as Nagas and Asuras, as well as many pigeons, parrots, and similar birds. All in all, these imitation heavenly cities are most beautifully situated and attractively decorated. Such is the illusory energy. It can appear very, very beautiful. But this is an imitation of the heavenly planets. And the heavenly planets are also illusory because they're temporary. So it's the imitation of an imitation. Better to be a servant of the servant of the servant than to be attracted to an imitation of an imitation. Text 10. The parks and gardens in the artificial heavens surpass in beauty those of the upper heavenly planets. The trees in those gardens, embraced by creepers, bend with a heavy burden of twigs with fruits and flowers. Therefore they appear extraordinarily beautiful. That beauty could attract anyone and make his mind fully blossom in the pleasure of sense gratification. There are many lakes and reservoirs with clear, transparent water, agitated by jumping fish, and decorated with many flowers such as lilies, kuvalayas, kalaras, and blue and red lotuses. Pairs of chakravakas, many other water birds nest in the lakes and always enjoy in a happy mood, making sweet, pleasing vibrations that are very satisfying and conducive to enjoyment of the senses. Trapped. Text 11. Since there is no sunshine in the subterranean planets, time is not divided into days and nights, and consequently fear produced by time does not exist. Yeah, like you go into some of these big shopping malls, these indoor malls they have here. It's just unfortunately ended up having to walk through one the day after Christmas, and they have all the sales, 75% off, all the stuff they couldn't sell for the holiday, they practically give away. So these indoor malls are jammed. It's worse than before the holiday, after the holiday. Plus people are returning things, didn't fit, wasn't the right color, didn't want it, etc. It's like jammed with people. And it's all artificial lighting, everything's artificial. All the shops, and the music is playing, and everything is there for getting in the mood of consuming, which means enjoying, purchasing and enjoying. And there are little places to eat and try to make it such a nice environment. And it's artificially lit so that even at night it's light in there. It's light inside. And the temperature and climate is controlled, so it's always just the right temperature. Not too hot, not too cold. There's never any storms, or nothing ever happens in these indoor artificial environments. It's always perfect. So easy to forget time. You don't see the sun coming up and going down. You don't see seasonal changes. So here, this verse, there's no sunshine, and there's no day and night, and so there's no fear produced. So, of course, these shopping centers do close at night, although we have some huge stores, like this big super store, this gigantic Walmart. They have everything in there. It's not as delightfully designed as some of these gigantic shopping malls, but they never close. So it's always daylight in there. It never closes. 24 hours a day, always the same environment, the same lighting, the same music playing, everything for your consuming pleasure. So you can pleasantly consume, engage in your sense gratificatory purchases. So these planets, no day and night, and there's no fear of time. There's no even counting time. And the residents don't grow old, but they do die at their allotted time. The Lord is keeping track, evidently. We'll read a little bit more about these subterranean heavens. 12. Many great serpents reside there with gems on their hoods, and the effulgence of these gems dissipates the darkness in all directions. Now, in these shopping centers, they have these gigantic fluorescent lighting situations. So, why would it be so difficult for us to be able to understand that this artificial lighting is coming from the effulgence of gems on the hoods of serpents? So there's no darkness. That's where the light comes from. Okay, the next time I look at a light bulb, it's not going to look the same. Text 13. Since the residents of these planets drink and bathe in juices and elixirs made from wonderful herbs, they're freed from all anxieties and physical diseases. They have no experience of gray hair, wrinkles, or invalidity. Their bodily lusters do not fade, their perspiration does not cause a bad smell, and they are not troubled by fatigue or by lack of energy or enthusiasm due to old age. Could it be any more perfect for material enjoyment? These subterranean heavenly planets. Wonder how someone gets to go there. If they perform pious activities, they go to the higher planets. Wonder how they go to the subterranean heavenly planets. Not that I want to go. I'm fully satisfied just hearing about them. I'm just visiting by hearing. I'm not. But I do like to know how things work, how Krishna's doing things, because Krishna's amazing. He's wonderful. Everything about Krishna is wonderful. How he's managing and arranging these situations. Okay, so that's what their bodies are like. They have material bodies, but no gray hair, no wrinkles, no invalidity. Their bodily luster is always there. Even their perspiration doesn't cause a bad smell. Now that's a good one. They're not troubled by fatigue or lack of energy or enthusiasm due to old age, which means they're big into sense gratification right to the end. And, they must be fully absorbed in all kinds of sexual enjoyment, because that's the king of sense gratification, plus what they're eating, their tongue, and fully engaged in eating who knows what. Be nice to hear about it, just so you know what you don't want. I don't know if we'll get that much of a graphic description, but here we go with text 14. They live very auspiciously, do not fear death from anything, but death established time, which is the effulgence of the Sudarsana chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so it's not the rising and setting of the sun that measures out their lifespan. It is the effulgence of the Sudarsana chakra. That when that effulgence of the Sudarsana chakra appears, they know it's over. So there must be a certain amount of apprehension. What was that? Is that the Sudarsana chakra? Oh, no, okay, it wasn't. Prabhupada's commentary. This is the defect of material existence. Everything in the subterranean heavens is very nicely arranged. There are well-situated residential quarters, a pleasing atmosphere, no bodily inconveniences or mental anxieties, but nevertheless, those who live there have to take another birth, according to karma. So they're there and they have subterranean heavenly planets enjoying like anything, but when it's over, they're not necessarily going back there. Who knows where they're going? Persons whose minds are dull cannot understand this defect of materialistic civilization aimed at material comforts. One may make his living conditions very pleasing for the senses, but despite all favorable conditions, one must, in due course of time, meet death. The members of a demoniac civilization endeavor to make their living conditions very comfortable, but they cannot check death. The influence of the Sudarsana chakra will not allow their so-called material happiness to endure. So devotees of the Lord can be found in any situation, but in general, they don't put any big, huge endeavor into making all sorts of arrangements for sense gratification. Now, devotees can live very simply and have what they need so that their senses are, so they can eat nice foods, healthy foods, have a safe, quiet, pleasing place to live, can raise a family, and have an occupation, support themselves and their families. But it's not some huge endeavor to build something gigantic to try to amplify pleasure coming through the senses. They're not interested in that, whereas materialists are, because they have no other goal. Devotee has a goal: hear and chant, remember Krishna, prepare for going back to Godhead. Materialist does not have that goal. Fully identify with the material body and sense gratification to the utmost. What's that little sticker you see on people's cars, He who has the most toys in the end wins. So, this is an indication of the materialistic idea. They cannot stop death. So, a devotee also may be in a very opulent situation. He may inherit it, or it's just according to his karma. He's due some nice facilities. So that's Krishna. It's not like the devotee is putting so much effort and energy into acquiring it. It's just coming to the devotee. It's their allotted quota. So they're not overly attached to sense gratification, even though they may find themselves in the middle of it. They're not. It's not their desire. It's not their heart's desire. They remain fixed in devotional service. So demigods are like that in a way. They have so much opulence at their disposal, but they're engaged in devotional. They're engaged in serving the Lord. They're managers. So, of course, a Vaishnava or a devotee is beyond any material consideration, whether rich or poor, sick, beautiful, ugly, invalid, it doesn't matter, because they're not their body. They're in a transcendental position. So, but that's the great, 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 inconceivable mercy of devotional service. It's so powerful. Even Krishna is attracted. The Lord himself is captivated by devotional service. That's the power of devotion. And that's what a devotee is, someone who is embodying that devotion to the Lord. And by the association of those devotees, it's like a disease. It's contagious. It's like coming in contact with another type of energy is going to have its effect. There's no getting around it. It's going to have its effect. It's like putting a finger in an electric socket. It's going to have an effect. This was so wonderful about devotional energy, the Lord and the Lord's devotees. They're going to have an effect. Krishna. Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sankirtan Yagna. Ki Jai. It's Lord Chaitanya appearing as in the mood of a devotee. I mean, that is Krishna and his devotee appearing in one manifestation of Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And Shri Krishna Chaitanya tells us he's put all his potencies in his holy name. So how powerful is that holy name? Hare Krishna. Especially uttered from the lips of a pure devotee. Wow. Krishna. Okay, Prabhupada's commentary. Oh no, we read that. Okay, we go on text 15. When the Sudarshan disc enters these provinces, the pregnant wives of the demons all have miscarriages due to fear of its effulgence. Well, it must be, yeah, it's like coming in contact with death personified. Sudarshan Chakra is the messenger of death. It's all over, finished. Whew. Text 16. Well, actually, I think we'll save that because we're going on to a whole nother area of the lower planets. So, whole nother description. Save that for next time. Krishna.